Well, it's remarkable, isn't it? Less than 24 hours after Elon Musk came out in support of Tommy and his work against child grooming gangs, TV and radio stations across the nation have been clamouring to talk about Musk's anti-Starmer stance, but few, if any, mention Tommy, the entire reason that Elon came out in the first place, unless, of course, it was in a negative fashion. Usual stuff, far right this, far right that, bore off for God's sake. Yep, the mainstream media, who are left without pretty much any single shred of any credibility in the eyes of the nation, are these days pretty much talking to themselves, aren't they? And even that audience is slowly dying off. Example, on Talk TV this evening, Peter Cardwell, yes, the oaf that only a month ago described Tommy as a racist and then doubled down on it before completely losing his bottle when challenged to prove it. Suddenly he wants to talk about, guess what, child grooming gangs. You couldn't make it up, as Talk TV must have been vetting their callers furiously, as they will have been calling to point out the bloody irony and the utter hypocrisy. No, Peter, people like you are responsible for Tommy's message being buried and silenced for years. But now Elon Musk is talking about it, you want to get in on the act, a bit of virtual signalling. No, you're all right, son, you made your bed, you chose your side, and we won't forget. Because you chose to needlessly and viciously attack the man trying to save little girls, and you haven't fooled us. Now you've got to own it, unless, of course, you want to provide the evidence for your false claims. But I won't hold my breath, and I'll tell you what, you can even come onto this show if you like, and you can offer your explanation or an apology. Guess what, people? We won't hear from him. So-called journalists across the nation must now start to take responsibility for their own words and their deliberate lies. Take about Piers Morgan. The days of slandering Tommy and anyone else who dares talk about grooming gangs just because they think it's either fashionable or they can get away with it are over. And for some, those at, say, The Guardian, for an example, might do well to consider that times are changing. Tommy's day in the sun is coming, and this Labour government won't be around to protect them forever. One day, it's my hope that these people will have to explain the reasons why they chose to bury news and why they chose to bury patriots who just wanted to save the kids. How do these people live with themselves? And the way this is shaping up, with calls for a full-on public inquiry, further in-depth investigations, and yes, even prosecutions, I reckon there's going to be a few councillors, politicians, and yes, even some police officers who are going to be sweating like a rapist, pardon the pun, and not before time. Because these were the very people that were supposed to be protecting our children and not facilitating and delivering them into the hands of the monsters preying on them, and all in the name of diversity. And finally, if I were involved, if I were a part of this cover-up, going back doesn't matter how many years, I tell you what, I'll be on the first plane out of this country tomorrow. Because at last, the net is closing on them all.